Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I'm Ellis and today I'm joined by Ollie Hayes. It's the international break at the moment, so not much Everton going on. So we thought we'd have a look at Everton's striker situation. How are you doing, Ollie?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad. I'd like to say I'm enjoying the international break without Everton, but it'd be nice to get into that ground next week to the for the Bournemouth game on the 30th of March. But yeah, as you said, let's get straight into our striker situation. Let's have a look at it.
Yeah, well, I think it's been a big talking point, hasn't it? Because the fact of the matter is our strikers aren't scoring goals, and that's the biggest problem at the moment. We look at Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Is he now at 22 games without a goal? And then you've got Better as well, who's come in at times and is struggling really as well. We'll start with Dom. Of course, we're quite surprised that he's actually played as much as he has this season. So I suppose that's a positive to begin with. But what do you make of Dom so far this season?
I mean, it's a difficult one because he started the season quite positively, didn't he? I think, he was we went into the season not expecting him to be at the fitness levels that we've seen this year. And in the last two seasons, he had so many injury problems and in and out of the team. We were relying on him coming back in games where we massively needed him. And then you look at the Leicester game last season, the Crystal Palace game the season before. They're the big highlights of his last two seasons. And apart from that, it's been sporadic appearances here and there. So I think the first thing for me that I think about is great to see him back to the fitness levels that we saw under Ancelotti and in that lockdown period. But now can he find the form and the goals? And it's just not coming at the moment, is it? It's what did I think you said it was 20 odd games without a goal. I think it
Yeah,
was
that's
West Ham
worrying.
away in October. Yeah, massively worrying. And for me, I think the West Ham game at home was the right time to bring Beto in. But that doesn't say that Calvert-Lewin's time in an Everton shirt is finished and he can't get back in the team. That's definitely not to say that. I think he just needs to find that bit of form that we all know he has in him and just start putting the ball in the back of the net. That's all we can ask, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the most important thing for a striker is confidence. And we see a player who is actually contracted to Everton, Neil Mopey, banging them in at Brentford, and we're all looking like, how on earth is he doing that? But I suppose
Mm.
confidence is just huge, and Dom is completely devoid of it at the moment. We know what he can do. We've seen him in that game against Brighton last season, under Ancelotti as well. He's obviously a player there, isn't he? When he was I suppose, tasked to just sit in the box and finish off chances. He did do. And once you get one and once you get a few, you do go on a run, don't you? And we've also seen what he offers in the hold-up play sense as well. He does bring a lot to the
Mm.
side, but it seems like sometimes we play too much to that strength when we play him and we send too many long balls up. And I suppose for any striker, really, that is quite difficult to play with, isn't it? If you're constantly just having to take down long balls and deal with it, yes, it's great because he's good at it, but in terms of what getting Dom to his absolute strengths and to score more
Yeah,
goals,
yeah.
that's unselfish role isn't really going to bring him goals, is it?
Mm. I was going to say that's probably where his stats in an Everton shirt really do suffer. It's because of this system and the way we played, lumping it forward towards him just trying to get a knockdown or trying to hold the ball up. I think that's where the stats are really hurting him. Because we saw under Ancelotti. I said it before. He's not in that 6 yard box anymore, where Ancelotti liked to put him. Ancelotti said he was like Inzaghi in that 6 yard box. If he was put in that 6 yard box and he would be the poacher, he would score the goals. And for me, this system doesn't really suit that. He's more of the hold up man, the target player that Sean Dyche is looking to from the centre halves lumping it forward or the goalkeeper. And you look at set pieces as well. He's more of that target man player rather than the complete forward, which we saw under Ancelotti, which is fine because he can do that. And we've seen he can do that. He is very good in the air and he's very good at holding the ball up. But it's now in a situation where he's so devoid of confidence because he's not in that 6 yard box. He's not getting the chances to score as much, as he was in lockdown. I think that's where his stats are massively suffering. It probably does look worse on paper than it is. I think he has put in some decent performances here and there. He's not been up to the level of, what we saw under Ancelotti and previous managers. He's definitely not up to that level this season. There's no denying that. But I think the stats are a bit deceptive in that sense because he's not in that 6 yard box. The system doesn't, support that. So I think if he does get that first goal, as we said, he's a confidence player. Like Neil Mopay at Brentford, he's a massive confidence player. So if he does get that first goal, I think he'll go from strength to strength. And he was so close the other week. The one where it nicked off Jack Harrison just on the goal line. I think even if that had gone in, I think we said it off camera, didn't we? Even if that had gone in, I think that would have done the world of good for his confidence just to see that number go up by one and not have that, that since October record looming over his head. But As I said before, that first goal would be nice to see him get it and just to kick on for these last 10 games because at the end of the day, we need a striker. We need someone to score, and it's either going to be him or better.
But what that can do to your team if your attacker is confident and scoring goals, it can just really knit it all together, can't it? At the moment, the thing that everyone is bemoaning is the missed chances. And if your striker's
Mm,
putting them in, I imagine that probably breeds confidence in the rest of the team as well.
mm.
So maybe then they don't feel the same strain on having to score because Dom's putting it in. And Dom has had 24 starts, sorry, 24 appearances, 19 starts, and 3 goals this season, which I'm pleased about the appearances, but obviously, the goals aren't enough. And a player who's come in now in the last couple of games and who knows, maybe trying to cement his place is Beto. And Beto hasn't quite hit the heights either, really. He's a very different striker. For me, I look at Beto and go, he's raw, as we've always said. He's coming, he's not fully ready just yet, but he's shown enough signs to me to suggest that he will be a decent player. I think I don't believe in writing him off. I feel there's some fans that are writing him off already. I think he might have something, even if it's the pure unpredictability of him. Every time we watch him together, we're always like, yeah, I don't think he knows what he's doing himself, which is great because that can just trouble defenses. And yes, he's not had a great time at Everton so far himself. He's had 7 starts, got them 2 goals. He got that big one against Newcastle. And a goal like
Yeah.
that one where he picked it up and he drove past down the right hand side, that showed that he has got something. And I think he has, do you?
Yeah, oh no, 100%. I think we touched on it then, the unpredictability of him. If he gets into a situation, I don't think he knows what he's doing with his limbs and, running in behind. I think that's where he is going to be able to hurt teams in the future. We know, he's this raw attacking striker that doesn't really know what they're doing. But it's can you hone that? And I think he's very similar. And I know a lot of Liverpool fans will probably be like, what you're talking about, but he's very similar to Darwin Nunez in that sense. I think these strikers that are so unpredictable and so, raw in terms of their talent, I think it does take a season for them to bed in and just calm themselves down. Because I think in games, I've looked at him, he runs in behind, like the Brighton game, for example, he ran in behind, he had that chance and he spooned it about 10, 15 yards wide. I think next season, if he's, bedded in a little bit more and gets to a situation where he's calm on the ball, just in front of goal, running in behind, I think that's where we'll start to see his goal tally go up a little bit. But I think at the moment he's just trying to impose himself a little bit too much. He's really feeding on that unpredictability, and it's kind of costing him in terms of his numbers. But that being said, I completely agree with you there. I think there's no chance we can write him off yet. I think he is going to be a decent striker for us. We've not paid a penny for him yet, have we? I think it's next financial year that we are Udinese the money. So again, no money has come out of our bank at the moment for him. It was always going to be a first difficult season in England because these strikers, they do take time to bed in. You look at Erling Haaland. I think he's the only striker in England that has ever come to the league and just set it alight straight away. Like, it doesn't happen overnight. So I think with Beto, as you said, we can't write him off too early. I think he will come good for us, but does that help us in these last 10 games? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I suppose it's a decision for Sean Dyche to make, isn't it, as to whether he starts Dom or whether he starts Beto, or if he finds a solution to perhaps start them both. And we'll go on to
Mm,
solutions in a bit, but there's one more striker that deserves talking about and very much deserves talking about, and I think is sometimes forgotten a little bit, and that's Yusuf Chamiti, who is in the squad. And Sean Dyche often alludes to the fact that he isn't fully ready yet and he's kind of just learning his trade. But when he's come on, he's looked to offer something, and he's obviously the right profile for it. He's tall and he's had a few moments, hasn't he, which just makes you think, could he perhaps work if he played with someone else? And I know you like Yusuf Chamiti, so go
mm.
ahead.
I know. Listen, I think I've been higher praise of him since he joined the club. I think Sean Dyche is probably right that he's not fully ready for the Premier League yet. These strikers, he's coming from a league which doesn't have a lot of pace. It's relatively slow in terms of the tempo of the league in Portugal. So it's going to be difficult for a young striker to come in and set the world alight straight away. But for me, I think he's got all the attributes there that will show that he will be a decent Everton striker in the future. He's very similar to Calvert-Lewin in that sense, isn't he? He's very good in the air. He's quick. He can hold up the ball well. And as you said, I think he would work well in a system, maybe a two-man system up front with Beto or up front with Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I think in that system, he would be able to flourish and almost have someone up there with him to back him and sort of show him the ropes of the Premier League. Because, you look at Beto, he's got Premier League experience now. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's been, around the Premier League for years. So I think he's with two decent strikers that can help him grow in that sense. And he scored on international break on international duty for Portugal under 21s last night. Like he does know where the net is. It sounds cliche, but he does know where the net is. So for me, I think it'll be nice to see next season maybe if you know, we are in a situation where we are away from the relegation zone. He can just have a few more starts here and there and really ply his trade in the Premier League because I think he's one to watch for me. It's certainly not in these last 10 games. I think it's probably too harsh to send him on for, put him in such a difficult role for the last 10 games of this season. I think because we're in such a precarious situation, I think it'd be very harsh on the lad. But next season, can we just see him get a little bit more game time and ply his trade a little bit more? I would have made the argument maybe to send him on loan in January to a championship club. I think he would have set the world alight in the championship. He was one of those players that, he's got, as we said before, he's got the right profile to be a championship striker. He's a big lad, he can put himself about. So I think it would have been nice to see him go on loan, but obviously, we haven't got the biggest squad in the world. We do probably need him between now and the end of the season, maybe for the odd appearance here and there. But yeah, for me, good player. I think he definitely wants to watch, maybe not for the rest of this season, but definitely wants to watch next season.
Yeah, I remember us being dead excited that we had three strikers. At the start of the season, we were thinking, well, we've got three strikers here, and it's not really gone the way that we wanted it to. But at least with Chimiti, there's a future to it, isn't it? You can see that maybe in a few years he could become something. And we almost replaced Tom Cannon with him, didn't we? So it's quite
Mm,
weird to see. Actually, it'd be interesting to see which of those two players actually progresses and does better. But hopefully, and when we're
yeah,
in a
yeah.
bit of a better position, that's when we might see more of Chimiti. But looking at solutions now, because the lads have been to Portugal, haven't they? They've had a 3 week break without a game, and I really hope they've been working on solutions to these lack of goals. And we always talk about we want to see more patterns of play, we want to see different ways of attacking just to help get us these goals because it seems at the moment, despite the stats saying that we're creating loads of chances, it's not really paying us back. So perhaps there's another reason why it isn't. So I think we do need to look at a solution, and it's one of those you've got to look at it between would you play two strikers and take the risk? Would you play one of them? Would you play one of them in a different way? I'll start with you. Like, do you have a solution in mind that you think is the one that they should have been working on in Portugal?
Um, Off the top of my head, I don't think that two strikers up front is the way. I think if you look at the Luton game at Goodison, for example, we played two strikers. We played Beto and Calvert-Lewin, and that didn't work. So I'd be very cautious going into games with two strikers up front. For me, I think the biggest solution is probably Beto up front for now. I think he's one that I would look at to maybe start and build the team around rather than Calvert-Lewin. I think, listen, Calvert-Lewin, he has the ability there. There's no denying that, but he's had his chance now. He's not put the ball in the net for 20 odd games. So it's probably Beto's time now just to get a run of games in the team. And I thought he did all right against Manchester United. I think he did decent against Manchester United. I don't think there was a player on the pitch there that had a good game against Manchester United. So I think Beto doesn't warrant losing his place off that performance. Um, yeah, my solution is probably stick with Beto now between now and the end of the season. What are you thinking?
I agree that Beto should be playing. I'm really banking on Dom to come back and hit form. It would be great, wouldn't it, if he came in and he was able to play these final few games and just deliver for us? Because we know he can, that's the thing. And I don't
Yeah,
think it'd be right if we didn't see him play again until the end of the season. But I think what the way back in for Dom would be for him to score off the bench. So he has those
yeah,
last 30 minutes of a game, for example, when defenders are tiring, he nicks one and then suddenly he's back in contention to start. That's probably the way to do it for me. We've seen two up front against Luton, haven't we? And it just went
it
disastrously
didn't
wrong.
work.
And maybe that's something you need to hone over a pre-season. And we know Dyche
Mm,
likes 4-4-2, so perhaps it is something he'll do. Like you said before, I don't think we'll see a lot of Chimiti really, so it is going to be between the two. I'd probably go with Beto for now, that's for sure, and hope that he can hit some sort of form. But everyone needs to help him as well, don't they? As in, the whole
yeah, yeah, yeah.
scoring problem isn't just on the strikers, is it? I think we've established that it's a
No,
team-wide
definitely
thing.
not.
Just like we defend as a team, we attack as a team, and these lads have had it quite difficult as well, really, in terms of service because of just it's that
Mm,
unselfish job that they've got to play. So I'd be thinking with Beto, for example, can we find a few more passes where he's running onto it rather than with his back to goal? I think that might be a way
yeah.
of just changing the way we play a bit for him to suit him.
Yeah, that's spot on. I think I hope that they've worked on that in Portugal. I hope they've worked on patterns of play because we looked devoid of all ideas against Manchester United towards the end. We looked like we were just lumping it forward and trying to just hope that someone would get off the end of a knockdown. And unfortunately, at this level, it doesn't work. So I'm praying that between now and the end of the season, and obviously the time that they've used in Portugal, I'm praying that they've worked on some patterns of play and some tactics going forward. Because, as I said there, before the international break and before this long break that we've had, we looked awful going forward, didn't we? So I'm just praying that they've done something in Portugal to help that and just some patterns of play. And as you said, maybe getting better on the half turn and putting him in behind rather than having his back to goal. Just these little margins, these little fine tuning margins that Dyche can implement could make a huge difference. And between now and the end of the season, even if say changing a little tactic going forward gets you 5, 6 goals, that's the difference between winning or losing games and staying in the division and going down. So I think Dyche probably needs to broaden his horizons in terms of tactics and maybe try and build some patterns of play.
Fingers crossed these lads can just get some boost of confidence. Suddenly, hopefully they've been banging them in Portugal. We know Michael Keane has, but hopefully them two have as well. Maybe Michael Keane's the answer. You'll have to let us know, guys. Please do leave a comment. Do you think it should be Beto? Do you think it should be Dom? Do you think Chimiti should start some games? Is he the wild card? Do let us know, but we hope you've enjoyed the video. That is all for now on the Toffee Blues. Speak to you next time. See you in a bit.